There is a woman in Mexico City today who owns 5 luxury restaurants in the capital's most exclusive districts. Reservations to her establishments must be made weeks in advance. She is celebrated in gastronomic magazines and directs a highly trained team of over 80 people. Yet 15 years ago, Graciela Montoya would take a crowded bus from the humble outskirts of Iztapalapa simply to clean other people's houses. Her hands were deeply cracked from manual labor, and her heart was heavy with the quiet, desperate doubt about whether she even deserved a better life. Her story is not a fairy tale. It is not a stroke of random luck. It is the exact, scientific demonstration of a principle that the great spiritual teacher Emmet Fox repeated tirelessly for decades. That principle is this: the consciousness you carry within determines exactly the life you experience without. It is not your sheer human effort alone that brings success. It is not your contacts. It is not your background. It is your consciousness. It is what you believe in the deepest, most secret recesses of your soul about yourself, about God, and about what you are entitled to receive by divine right. This teaching is entirely uncompromising because it forces you to ask yourself a brutally honest question. What consciousness are you carrying right now? What inner narrative are you repeating while you walk down the street, while you work your job, while you try to rest at night? Because that story, visible or invisible, is building your physical reality with absolute, mathematical precision. What Graciela discovered was not a shallow motivational technique or a fleeting human formula for success. It was the ancient, profound power of scientific prayer, a precise tool for inner transformation. And it was this inner transformation that changed absolutely everything else. Graciela was 32 years old when she first found a book containing Emmet Fox's teachings. It was sitting in a cardboard box of donated items at her local parish. The pages were yellowed, marked with the faded pencil notes of some previous seeker. She picked it up almost involuntarily, as if the divine will itself was guiding her hand toward her awakening. The first few pages shook her entirely awake. Fox wrote that the human mind has the absolute power to change external circumstances by first altering internal conditions. He taught that God is not a distant, judging autocrat handing out arbitrary punishments and rewards. God is a living, active presence, the divine mind, dwelling within every single human being, simply waiting to be recognized and expressed. To Graciela, this was a complete revelation. She had grown up firmly embedded in the race consciousness that viewed the deity as severe and difficult to please. The idea that the divine mind lived within her, ready to guide and sustain her at all times, was so radical that her human intellect initially resisted it. But the truth has a way of resonating in the soul, and her heart recognized it immediately, even while her mind struggled to catch up. That night, for the very first time in her life, Graciela sat in the quiet and spoke to God, not as a beggar pleading for scraps from a reluctant universe, but as a child recognizing her infinite source. That was the crucial first step in a demonstration that would remake her entire world. Prayer is not a desperate supplication to change God's mind. God's mind does not need changing. Prayer is the conscious recognition of a spiritual truth that already exists. This distinction is the master key to all spiritual demonstration. When Graciela began to deeply study these principles, she realized her old prayers had always been, "God help me, because I have nothing. I am a nobody and life has beaten me down." With every such prayer, she was forcefully impressing upon her subconscious mind the image of a worthless, impoverished victim. And the universe simply mirrored that victimhood right back to her. Scientific prayer, however, begins from the absolute premise that God is perfect abundance. That abundance is the true nature of the universe, and any experience of limitation is merely a mental illusion, an appearance, that can be dissolved when the light of truth is directed upon it. As Fox clearly stated, change your thought, and you will change your world, not because positive thinking is magic, but because a thought aligned with divine truth clears the channel for God's goodness to flow into your life without obstruction. Prayer opens your consciousness to receive the good He has already prepared for you from the beginning of time. The first practical step Graciela applied was what Fox called the prayer of recognition. Every morning, before leaving to scrub floors, she sat in absolute stillness for 5 uninterrupted minutes and stated aloud, "The divine mind is my source. The infinite abundance of God is now flowing to me. I am a child of the divine, and I claim my perfect good." She did not parrot this mechanically. She sought to feel the reality of the words. At first, her rational mind sneered at her. It told her, "You are cleaning houses. What abundance are you talking about? You are delusional." But Fox warned his students to expect exactly this resistance. The human intellect judges strictly by appearances. Spiritual faith, however, operates on a higher law. Week after week, Graciella's consciousness shifted. Her outer circumstances hadn't changed yet, but she had. She began to walk with a new bearing. She spoke with quiet authority. She looked at her employers not with fearful submission, but with serene dignity. Then came the ultimate test of her new consciousness. Graciella was suddenly fired from her primary housekeeping job without any warning. In the past, this would have destroyed her. She would have plunged into panic, resentment, and fear. Instead, she sat down and gave herself what Emmet Fox called a metaphysical treatment. A metaphysical treatment is a structured process to elevate your consciousness until you recognize the divine truth of a situation, thereby dissolving the negative appearance. It consists of 3 distinct steps: inner quietness, recognition of God's power, and the declaration of truth. Sitting in her small room, Graciella closed her eyes, separated herself from the panic of the human mind, and declared, "God is my only true employer. No door that he opens can be shut by any human being. My divine supply is perfectly secure in him." She did not scramble. She did not beg. She rested in the absolute certainty of the law. 3 days later, without engaging in frantic searching, she received an unexpected call from a wealthy family in the upscale Polanco neighborhood. They urgently needed help and offered to pay her double what she was making before. When the consciousness is clear and aligned with truth, the good flows toward it through channels the human mind could never have engineered. Graciella had successfully demonstrated the law, but this was only the very beginning. The divine mind was preparing her for something much, much larger. If this realization of truth is awakening something within you, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now. In our next video, we will explore exactly how Graciella used these very same principles of scientific prayer to move from a housekeeper in Polanco to the owner of a culinary empire, proving that the universe cannot withhold your good once your consciousness is ready to receive it. Until then, remember, your mind is the builder. Choose your thoughts aligned with the divine. There is a specific teaching from the Sermon on the Mount that Emmet Fox considered the absolute master key to the entire spiritual philosophy of Jesus. "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Fox dedicated his life to explaining that seeking the kingdom first does not mean ignoring your practical, daily needs. It means establishing the correct, scientific order of your inner priorities. It means that before you seek the money, before you seek the right business partner, and before you seek the opportunity, you must first seek conscious, unbroken contact with the divine presence within. Graciella had to learn this the hard way. At first, she was still praying to get specific things: more money, to pay off debts, to find a better situation. But Fox warned that this type of prayer, while entirely understandable to the human mind, still secretly operates from a consciousness of lack. You are telling God what you do not have. The day Graciella stopped outlining her demands and began praying simply for a state of consciousness, praying for spiritual clarity, for faith, for divine wisdom, was the day the universe rushed in to fill the void. In her new position working for a wealthy family in Polanco, Graciella was tasked with cooking for high society dinner parties. Her cooking was not just food, it was an expression of the harmony she was cultivating within. It was extraordinary. It commanded silence at the table. One of the frequent guests was an investor named Sophia Villesi, or Sophia recognized something far beyond mere culinary skill. She recognized the undeniable energetic signature of a woman aligned with her divine purpose. After her 3rd time tasting Graciella's food, Sophia pulled her aside and said words that would alter the course of Graciella's human experience. "I will put up the capital. You put up the talent and the vision. The world desperately needs what you are creating." Emmet Fox wrote that when a person is living truly from their divine center, the right circumstances and the exact right people appear at the exact right time, without any forced human effort. You do not have to manipulate the outside world. The outside world arranges itself around your elevated consciousness. But Graciella did not immediately sign the contract. She did not rush into human action fueled by the frantic excitement of the ego. Instead, she did exactly what Fox instructed every student of truth to do. Before making a major life decision, she retreated to the watchtower. For 3 entire days, Graciela went into absolute spiritual silence. She did not pray for the restaurant business to succeed. She prayed only to see the absolute will of God in the situation. Mixing personal, feverish human desire with divine guidance is a trap that ensnares many spiritual seekers. The human mind can want something so intensely that it builds clever spiritual arguments to justify it. Authentic scientific prayer requires radical honesty. You must be willing to receive a divine yes or a divine no with equal peace. During those 3 days of stillness, Graciela received what Fox called a spiritual realization. It was not a dramatic voice from the sky, but a serene, unshakable inner certainty. A quiet knowing that simply said, "This is your path. Advance without fear." When they found the location for the first restaurant in the Condesa neighborhood, human logic screamed that it was a mistake. It was too small, the location was not strategic, and the race mind, the collective doubt of society, told Graciela she was destined to fail. It was here she applied Fox's vital treatment against mass opinion. This is the spiritual practice of refusing to allow the fearful thoughts of others to penetrate your consciousness and corrupt the vision God has given you. She closed her ears to the fear disguised as logical advice. The spiritual law operates from a higher mathematics that the human intellect simply cannot calculate. The restaurant was packed from its very first week, not because of a clever marketing strategy, but because Graciela employed what Fox called the greatest business force in the universe, spiritual love. Before she unlocked the doors each morning, Graciela walked through the empty dining room and performed her prayer of welcome. She decreed that every single person who crossed her threshold would leave feeling uplifted, touched by a divine warmth they could not intellectually explain. When love is genuine and the consciousness is clean, resources multiply effortlessly, just as the loaves and fishes were multiplied. But the true test of a metaphysical student is not how they handle success, but how they handle the inevitable appearance of crisis. By the time Graciela opened her 3rd restaurant, disaster struck. A crucial supplier breached a major contract. Graciela faced catastrophic losses that threatened to collapse the entire operation. Her financial partners were terrified. The human picture was utterly bleak. Graciela immediately stopped all frantic action. She refused to make a single business decision from the vibration of fear. She went into intensive prayer. And in that stillness, her spiritual eyes opened. She realized that the supplier who had failed her was actually the divine mind forcing her to break a limiting dependency.
This crisis
was God's way of forcing her to build her own direct network of local producers, a move that would ultimately make her empire infinitely stronger. God frequently uses crisis to liberate us from comfortable situations that keep us living far below our divine potential. She did not sue from a place of rage. She sat in the quiet and blessed the supplier who had betrayed her. She spoke the word aloud, "I recognize the presence of God in this person. I bless them and I completely release them. There are no victims in the divine mind. My good does not depend on this man, nor on any human being. My supply comes exclusively from the infinite, unfailing source of God. Make no mistake, Fox taught that spirituality is not passivity. Graciela took the necessary legal and practical actions to protect her business on the human plane, but because she took those actions with a completely clean consciousness, free of the toxic, life-draining energy of resentment, she navigated the crisis with surgical precision. She emerged vastly wealthier, completely independent, and spiritually unshakable. Graciela had learned that when you refuse to hate the instrument of your difficulty, you strip the difficulty of all its power over you. If this profound teaching on spiritual business and divine demonstration is resonating with your soul, hit the like button right now and subscribe to Soul Awakening. In our 3rd and final part of this series, we will uncover the hidden trap that catches almost everyone who begins to experience massive success, the fear of good, and exactly how to completely dissolve it. Until next time, keep your consciousness entirely on the truth.